It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Welcome into Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Thanks for being with us. My name is Madelyn Burke. He is Paul Dottino. The phone number here is 201-939-4513, or you can find us on Twitter at #GiantsChat. And as a reminder, you can find the archive of this show and our entire podcast network on the Giants mobile app, on podcast platforms everywhere, and on Giants.com/podcasts. It's Wednesday, my dudes. We're back out on the practice field. No fans in attendance at this one, Paul. And I got to say, walking out there without fans in the stands, it felt a little bit different. Felt a little quieter. But you know what? They still had full pads on and still came ready to play.
They did, and of course, the first preseason game is in Buffalo on Saturday, so we're counting it down with only 3 days to go.
Wait, you mean, I'm sorry, I thought it was the Super Bowl on Saturday.
For me, it is.
Yeah, Paul Dottino on the call.
By the way, we're coming to you from the Hackensack, from the Giants Podcast Studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. Want to make sure we get those folks in. But here's what I want to tell you. Madelyn will be on sideline on Saturday. I'll be with Sean O'Hara upstairs. We're going to have a blast on that radio call, trust me. But I think the thing that I'm most curious about is something that Brian Daboll is not going to address, and that, of course, is how he's going to deploy his players in this preseason game, or the entire preseason for that matter. But I do think, we'll talk about some of the highlighted plays, but I just want to get this one topic out of the way first, Madelyn, because we've discussed it now all week on this program.
Yeah.
There are pros and cons. Everybody has them about whether or not your starters and your veterans should see preseason snaps. There's really no right or wrong answer. Brian Daboll himself said the other day, it depends on the individual team and the circumstances and sometimes the individual players.
Right.
And as the head coach, he gets to make that decision.
Right.
It's not for you to make. It's not for me to make. It's not for the fans to make. Russell Wilson certainly today made a pitch for the value of preseason snaps, how much he enjoys them, how much he thinks they contribute to the overall situation, and of course, for young players, can also create great memories.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, Russ remembered so vividly his very first preseason action. I like the way that he talked about how he said to himself at the time, listen, it's only 100 yards. And he still uses that. It's only 100 yards, that positive self-talk. He's really big on that positive self-talk and that kind of inner monologue being one that's supportive, that brings him some success. But you mentioned, we heard from head coach Brian Daboll on Tuesday talking about the value of playing in preseason in terms of a concept, not in terms of what he's going to do this season, this week. And he said it is different for every team. There's not a right formula. You play him, you don't play him. I mean, there's pros and cons to each side. But Brian Daboll did acknowledge that, there's no substitute for playing a game. There's no substitute for tackling. There's no substitute for a quarterback when he knows that he can actually get hit. There's no red jersey on. And so you try to balance that with what you think is good for the football team, which is, yes, being healthy for week 1 of the regular season is important. But you also want to have that preparation and that rhythm and that muscle memory. That's more than just, these practice reps where you are so used to running full speed and then pulling up before you tackle, or, knowing that you're not going to get hit. You play very differently than you do when you take contact. And as much as you have to learn to make a play, you also have to learn how to take a hit.
Well, Wilson's been in this league for 14 years. Mm-hmm. And for him to tell us today at the podium about how he relives that excitement every single time he takes the field. He wants to be with his teammates on the field. He wants to be in the huddle.
He loves
and experience football. That adrenaline rush and be with the guys. And he said, you know what? It's not only about me, though. It's about how I can also help my teammates. Some of those other guys who may not know the plays well. Some of the young guys who need that leadership and that guidance. Russ was making a pretty strong pitch that he wants to see some snaps against the Bills. I have no idea, and nor do you, what Brian Daboll's going to do. But I just want to make it clear that Russell Wilson, who has been emphatic in expressing his leadership skills from the first day he walked onto campus, continues to exhibit the same attitude and the same philosophy time after time. And some out there might say, he's played as many snaps as anybody can play. What would he have to gain by playing even one snap in the preseason? And here's this guy who has become a great leader for this team already in only a couple of short months, saying, you know what, I'd like to play some.
And for the purpose of clarity, it wasn't an unprompted him coming up there giving a speech about how much he wants to play. He was asked about, hey, do you see value in training camp or in preseason reps for starters? And he did. He said, yes, I understand that. He answered a question. It wasn't like he was offering like, I need to play and we need to make that happen. But I do think that one thing that is just beyond evident every time I've spoken to Russell Wilson, every time we've heard him at the podium, this man just loves the game of football. And an opportunity to get on the football field with his teammates is one that he wants to take. And especially, you know, the way he talks about this group and this team and how much he loves this locker room, and just the kind of chemistry that this team is already building. The way that they, you know, he's got secret handshakes with almost every player in the locker room.
I think one of the things that's interesting to me, Madelyn, his last two stops in Denver, we know that the system that they had with the Broncos and Sean Payton did not jive very well with Russell Wilson. There was a disconnect, right? Then when the Broncos' record started going bad, they didn't want to pay him his injury guarantee if he got hurt, so they benched him. So that didn't end well. He goes to Pittsburgh.
Very run-heavy offense.
And there has been a very, very strong litany of reports coming out of Pittsburgh that Wilson also had a disconnect with the offensive coordinator. So that was not exactly a happy-go-lucky pizza pie experience either.
But even if, you know, personality aside, stylistically, Russ is a chuck it down the field kind of quarterback. And
well, he's a play-action quarterback.
Well, that too, but has the ability to do that, whereas, you know, the Steelers, especially in the latter half of the season, were so focused on running the ball. You know, you can't judge a fish by his ability to climb a tree.
No, I'm not even going in that direction. What I'm really trying to say is that Wilson is going out of his way to say how much he likes the chemistry and the collaboration.
Yes.
How many times did we hear that word?
That part too.
About 3 times, 4 times today?
Oh, yeah. And he talks about how he loves the way that Brian Dable sees the game.
And Kafka.
And
Tierney.
Tierney, yeah. But the way that they can, you know, just talk ball and the way that he has so much respect for the vision that these guys have.
So I guess what I'm trying to say, folks, is when Russell Wilson is glowing poetically about how much he loves being here, how much he enjoys the organization, how much he really, really gets into the fact that this is a good group of teammates he's got here, I don't think that's smoke, because the last 2 places that he played, there was a disconnect, and it probably was not nearly as enjoyable or as fun as what he's experiencing with the Giants right now.
Absolutely. But to Russ's credit, I think that he would go to the podium and speak glowingly about his teammates in those places as well. You know?
I'm sure he would.
You know, I think he
But I guess I'm buying more of it because I appreciate the fact that things were not as smooth in his last 2 stops.
Right.
And maybe he's just overly grateful and overly appreciative because now he has found sunshiny days, if you will, with the Giants.
One thing that I really like about the impact that we've seen from Russell Wilson, though, in the leadership standpoint, is not just his own leadership, right? Not just him showing up, taking guys to dinner, creating that environment, but also encouraging other younger guys.
Like Neighbors,
and even Darius Slayton to step into leadership roles in different ways. Now, you hear a lot about how players say, oh, I lead by action more than leading by words. But Russ really emphasizes the importance of being vocal, not just to say, hey, let me tell you what to do or how to do it, but also to make sure that people are seeing the same thing in the same way. Hey, tell me what you're seeing on this play, not just for the receivers to tell the quarterbacks what they're seeing, but also to see the fellow receivers. And the more communicative you are about what you see or what you're expecting, the more it's easier for the group to get on the same page. And you've heard Malik Neighbors talk about, he's, you know, more of a talk to himself kind of guy, more of an action over words. He's been more vocal. Darius Slayton, a bit more of a quiet guy in the locker room at times, but he's really stood up and said, you know what, I have to speak up a little bit more. Stepped outside of his comfort zone, which he's acknowledged, and that's a Russell Wilson influence.
Russell Wilson has done basically everything right since he's been here. One of the other elements, in addition to everything you just said, is that he makes sure to go to all the units on the team. It doesn't matter if they're the quarterback room, the receiver room, the secondary, the linebackers. He's going over to all of his teammates and talking them up all the time. Did you see today, and we're going to get to these plays in just a second, I'm going to refer to one right now. Mm-hmm. Tay Banks had an interception today on the far sideline. Made a really, really nice read on the ball and physically ripped the ball away and came up with a pick. It was on a Wilson throw. Did you see how Wilson made sure to go talk him up? Mm-hmm. Good play. Good play.
It was a good play because
he just got picked, and he's happy for his DB for picking him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially for a guy like Tay, who is really kind of coming into his own.
He's playing great.
At this point of camp. Speaking about what we saw in practice, we may as well break it down too. Big day for the defense.
Yep.
A lot of tight coverage there, Paul.
Very, very good coverage in the secondary. We've seen that throughout the entire offseason. Nick Jones wound up picking off Jackson Dart today.
He dove for that.
I mean, Montrell Washington looked like he had a pretty good position out by the sideline, and then Nick Jones just is like, no, I'm diving in front of him, and I'm wrestling the ball away. Now, Washington maybe needs to do a little better job of trying to fight for it. Because Jones really used his hand strength to make sure that he got his hands on the ball and came down with it.
But if I'm Montrell Washington and I look at my positioning, I think, I got this. And then Nick Jones came in out of nowhere.
I'm sure he felt that he had position because he was shielding the defender to the inside. And the ball came to the outside, but Jones just was like, it's mine.
Yeah.
But there's another pick today. So 2 picks today that were really impressive. And I think the thing that we have to keep in mind is that everyone's given a lot of hype to the front seven and the pass rush. This secondary, very quietly, has had a terrific offseason.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's hard, too, because we're seeing the highlights on social media and not remembering the fact that, we're not tackling right now. So it's like, yes, the DB gets there in team drills, but he's got to pull up because he can't run into the receiver. So in a live action game, you never know what the play would have been by the DB in these moments. But, even in one-on-ones, we're seeing a lot of good competition there.
All right, let's mention a couple of the highlighted plays, shall we, before we get to your phone calls. 201-939-4513 is our phone number. The play of the day was an offensive play. Mm-hmm. They did have some sparkling gems today, even though we do believe it was a defensive-oriented practice. Jameis Winston felt some heat in the pocket, was flat-footed, and unloaded a 55-yard rifle, a deep post for a touchdown to Daquan Felton. As pretty a ball as you're ever going to see.
It was beautiful. And Jameis had a couple of nice drives down the field. He was really enthusiastic, fired up, got his teammates involved in that a lot of different ways.
Also hit Olszewski on the last play of practice.
Yep, from the red zone.
Inside the back line of the end zone. Threw him a nice dart, and Olszewski went down and made the catch. And by the way, Olszewski's only been here for about a week. Folks.
He was here last year, but not with Jameis.
He was on IR.
Right.
He was on IR last year. Olszewski, he's got glue on his hands. I mean, that young fella, he catches everything they throw his way.
And he is a guy that when the Giants first brought him in, he was largely a special teams guy.
Well, yeah.
But he's really getting involved in the passing game.
He's tougher than nails.
Yep.
He really is. So we mentioned that. We mentioned Wilson hitting Theo Johnson on a crossing route, threw him a tightrope.
And when asked about the tight ends room after
he
practice today, first name out of his mouth was Theo Johnson.
Yeah.
Had a lot of effusive praise for the second-year tight end out of Penn State.
We'll flip it in the first half of practice to a terrific defensive play. Russell Wilson trying to hit Hyatt on a deep post. Banks and Newman were there to break it up. Perfectly timed.
Very well done. Yeah.
Let's see.
Jackson Dart had a nice little pass to Zach Pascal.
The one to Pascal, I mentioned to you,
row.
we were standing there, and I said, that's a nice high point by Pascal. That was on the sideline.
The first one, Pascal gets pushed out of bounds, goes to him again, high points it. And that's what I like to see, too, is from the young guy. One thing that I've noticed a lot with Jackson Dart is from day to day, from practice to practice, he's making adjustments. You see him make an error, and then you see him run back a similar scenario and adjust and not make the same mistake, which sounds like, duh, that's what you want to see. But it's easier said than done, right? You know, you want to say, okay, I've learned from this, and I'm showing you, okay, let's try it this way now.
This is the time to make mistakes.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's one of the reasons why, by the way, Brian Dable hasn't specifically said this, but I think one of the reasons that we see Dart getting more and more snaps with the second team during training camp is because they realize once the season starts, Winston's going to be the 2.
Yep.
And Wilson and Winston are going to get 90% of the snaps. So this is the time where Dart's going to get those reps. If he doesn't get them now in August, you know, there's no telling how few he's going to get during the season. So this is the time. They gotta use every opportunity they can to get him in there, have him take snaps, a lot of snaps with the second team, and if he makes a mistake, great, because that's how we fix it.
Well, and also, too, Jameis is a decade plus in this league, whereas Jackson is new to the league. So I think that it's easier to say, okay, I trust Jameis to be QB2 with fewer reps in practice.
No doubt.
Then Jackson has a lot more to learn at this point.
All right, let's see. We also have Winston hitting Bly on a left seam route, a diving catch by Bly. Made a couple catches today. Also had one I know he wish he had held on to, but he didn't. Also, Winston hitting Olszewski for a diving touchdown. That was 2/3 of the way through practice. That was terrific. And what else? I think that's pretty much all in terms of what I thought were the starred plays of the day. And you know what? They're going to be cards tomorrow, which, folks, so you understand again what that means. I think we've mentioned it to you a few times on the show.
Situational.
The coaches have plays on cards, which mimic certain kinds of things they want to do on a certain drive. And they come out to the ball and they show it to the team and they just run those plays. There are no game situations. They're not going to do red zone with the clock. They're not going to do full field with a clock. They're not going to look at the yardage and the down markers to run plays consecutively. They're simply trying to run diagnostics on certain plays that are on the cards. So it's kind of not a real practice. It is in that you are going through plays, but it's not a real practice in that you're not running real time, real down, real distance. It's kind of different. It's a little discombobulated. That's tomorrow. And then on Friday is the trip to Buffalo, and then the game on Saturday, 1 o'clock Eastern time, by the way. You can hear that live on the through the Giants app, which will get you to the Odyssey app, on WFAN 101.9 FM here in New York. Also locally on TV on Channel 4, WNBC New York. And nationally, the game will be televised live on NFL Network. So a lot of places for you guys to catch the Giants and Bills.
And a lot of highlights from it on an episode of Hard Knocks, because Bills are the featured team in Hard Knocks. Yep, Giants fans, make sure you go and subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. It features long-form interviews with Giants players, coaches, and front office staff, past and present. Plus, hear from the best analysts covering Big Blue and the NFL. Search for the Giants Huddle and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, or go to giants.com/podcast. And don't forget, if you are on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star positive review for all of our Giants podcasts. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. As we mosey our way on over to the phone lines, as we first chime in to line 1, Gary in Virginia. Gary, welcome to the show. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Paul Dottino and Madelyn Burke.
Hey, Paul and Madelyn. How you doing?
Hi.
Well.
A couple questions. I'm real excited for this season. I was wondering how you would put together 3rd and 10, what you would put out for our D-line, and then how would you defend it or oppose it as an offensive coordinator?
Depends on the place on the field, the time, the score, There's a lot of variables that you'd have to set up for me.
Personnel on the opposing side.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you got to give me before I can diagram that.
Yeah, we're going against Cam Ward.
I mean,
we're going against Patrick Mahomes.
I stay up at night doing these kinds of things. I'm running diagrams at 3:00 in the morning. So I love what you're asking me, but I need more scenarios to actually give you a diagram on that.
All right, if the game's on the line at the 50 against the Commanders.
Ooh.
And we're talking about field goal or touchdown. What do they need?
What's the score?
They're at the 50.
But what's the score?
They're at the 50. Do they need a field goal or a touchdown? It makes a difference. How much time is left?
Yeah, are the Giants trailing? Are they leading? Are they holding them?
I'm assuming the Giants are leading.
They're leading, and they need a field goal.
Okay, so Washington needs a field goal to win or tie. What are we talking about?
To win.
To win. Washington needs a field goal to win. Mm-hmm. They're on the 50-yard line. How much time is left, and how many timeouts does Washington have?
No timeouts, 1:30.
1:30.
It's a lot of ball game right there.
Wow.
It's a lot of ball game. But it's third down.
And it's third and what's the distance?
3rd and 10.
Third and 10. 3rd and 10. Okay, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use Abdul Carter as a spy on the quarterback, Daniels.
Jaden Daniels.
That's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to spy him. Second thing I'm going to do, I'm going to probably send a corner blitz with Drew Phillips coming off of the edge. Okay? I'm probably also going to make sure that I get Belton in there instead of McFadden because I want the extra speed in the secondary to worry about their pass game, their receivers. They got some quick guys out of the backfield too. I'm probably going to have Belton in there in the sub package. My defensive front, I'm probably going to go with I'm going to go with Dex. I'm going to go with Golston. I'm going to go with Burns. And I'll go with Tibbs. Bless you.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Golston and Dex are going to be down. I'm going to stand up Tibbs. I'm going to stand up Burns. I'm going to have Carter showing like he's going to be on the line, like he's going to come on a blitz, but he's going to mug it. And then he's going to step back and he's going to shadow Daniels as a spy just to make sure he doesn't tuck it down and run for the 10-yard first down. Then I'm going to tell my secondary, absolutely make sure that you play leverage using the sideline so that you keep the receivers in bounds because you're telling me no timeouts left. I want that clock to keep rolling. And absolutely, positively, I'm going to give them a little cushion. I'm not going to give them a huge cushion, and I'm not going to zone it. I'll give them a little bit. But I'm not going to give them a full zone because you know what? I don't know if McLaurin's going to be in the game or not. We don't know if he's playing. But if he's there, he could take something and then wind up with big yak yardage, and now they're in field goal range. So I'm not going to give him too much cushion, but I'll give him a step or two. All right? And then I'm going to try to funnel all of the receivers to the inside as best as I can. And if one of those guys tries to use a boundary route, he's going to get squeezed. I'm going to make sure that Daniels really can't thread the ball in fair territory inside the boundaries. That's the basic scheme that I would use.
Basic. That's
Gary,
good.
a man after Paul Dottino's own question. That is
That's
great.
right.
I like that.
I
like
think
the exercise.
no, that's cool.
No, that is a really cool exercise.
I spend hours doing this stuff, man. So I'm glad you asked.
And then I got a fun question that a friend of mine asked me. If you could pluck a player from the 2011 Super Bowl team and just pluck one from offense, one from defense onto this current depth chart, who would you pull? That makes sense.
Yeah, Victor Cruz on offense. I'd love to have Victor back when he was in his prime. And I'm a big Hakeem Nicks fan. Don't get me wrong. Love Bradshaw. Love Eli. Love Jacobs. But right now, if you added Victor Cruz to this passing game, Madelyn, my goodness, opposite neighbors, what would that look like? You know what I mean?
Fire.
Oh, so I'm going to want to pluck Victor Cruz. Someone out there is probably going to say pluck one of the offensive linemen, and I wouldn't blame you.
Like, what about a Chris Nee or
and I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to do that either.
You know,
I wouldn't blame you if you did that. That would be okay too. You know, I'm right now I'm just going for the fireworks. Yeah. So I'm going to go Victor Cruz. And on defense, who would I take on defense?
Antrell Roll.
Ah,
Yeah.
wow.
It's tough
You
'cause
know
that
what?
D-line's so good.
That'd be a hell of a pick.
Right?
That
That'd be my
he
pick
was-
on defense.
He was a dog's dog.
Yeah.
But you know what? The safeties here, I think, are pretty darn good.
That's true. That is true.
You know, wow.
I mean, what about like a Tuck or an OC?
I'd probably go Tuck.
Nice.
I'd probably go Tuck.
How about you, Madelyn?
I mean, I think this was a collaborative effort over here. I'm kind of on the same page. I think I would probably, I love the Victor Cruz pick, but I'd also, that offensive line was so good.
Yeah.
I'd probably take a lineman. And then defense, Entree Roll would be my first thought. But I don't know. I mean, like you said,
Yeah, I love
the
Tuck.
safeties
Oh,
are
I
good too.
love
Tuck
Tuck.
would be a great
Love
ad
Tuck.
too.
You know, the thing about the 2011 line, it wasn't as good as the 7 line.
No.
The 7 line
Right.
was much better. But the 11 line did enough.
Yeah.
They did enough to get it done. Although I think it's also fair to say that Eli, and I can't stand how he's so underrated, and they didn't get him into the hole yet. Eli really took that team on his back a bunch of times in
For sure.
2011. He really did.
He's a
People
stud.
got to give him a lot more credit for that championship than they do.
I agree. He's a stud.
Awesome. Well,
All
thanks
right,
so
well,
much
thank
for the
you.
call, Gary. Appreciate you taking the time. And speaking of offensive line play too, we talked to Greg Van Roten the other day, who just welcomed his second child, a baby girl. Congratulations to the Van Roten family.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the things that I liked that he was talking about, though, is the way that Russell Wilson plays quarterback and how that affects the offensive line, because, he mentioned how usually the ball's snapped, you get it out there, you've got to block for a couple seconds, and the ball's coming out. Russ is going to make, extend a play with his feet. So, you got to kind of hold your ground a little bit more. You got to Hodor that thing. And it's a different mindset and a different mentality in terms of offensive line play of how you approach it. Not saying that, and he wasn't trying to say that, oh, well, I only have to block for this many seconds, now I have to block for that many. It's just more of being mindful of the fact that you hold your ground and you trust that this man's going to make a play and he's going to find a way to do that.
I think that has to be part of the consideration from everybody up front. They need to know the timing of Russell's clock. They need to know when is he going to decide to break the pocket and take off. He's not the same Russell Wilson that played in Seattle.
No.
That
But
guy
even if
had
he's not-
quicker legs.
But even if he's not taken off, he's shifty.
Oh, he
with
can
it.
roll.
Yeah.
There's
hit
no
him-
doubt.
He'll hit him with a hezzy,
He can roll and he can throw on the run.
Yeah.
Now, he doesn't have the legs that he used to have. So for that reason,
Who amongst us does?
yeah, really. I would like to see him get rid of the ball a little quicker. The big problem he had in Pittsburgh last year, and it's been a problem he's had throughout his career, Russell does hold the ball long, does believe he can make a play with his legs, and what they call it hero ball. When he's going to hold out as long as he can with a scramble to see if he can turn something into a big play.
Yeah.
A hero ball.
Instead of
And
taking the
that's
base hit, he's going for the home run.
That can be dangerous.
Sure.
And that's why he takes too many sacks, to be honest. He's always taken too many sacks his entire career.
Yeah.
With legs that aren't as spry as they used to be, he's got to make sure that his mental clock says to him, okay, it's time to give up on this play.
Right.
He's got to know, and I hope he learned that from his time in Pittsburgh last year, because it got him in trouble a lot. He needs to be able to give up on a play faster than he did last year, because you know what? He's getting older. The more sacks he takes, the more danger he's in.
Absolutely. Danger, Russ Wilson. Hey, Giants fans, run or walk with Giants legends. The Giants Foundation will host a 5K race and kids run presented by Quest on Sunday, October 26th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium, and net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. Now, all participants will receive a commemorative T-shirt. After the race, you can stay for a post-race festival with appearances by Giants legends and a live DJ. Register now at giants.com/5K. The Giants Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. 201-939-4513 is the phone number as we head back to the phone lines. Liam is on line too. Liam, thanks for calling in. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Paul Dottino and Madelyn Burke.
Yeah, I would like to talk about the Giants QB room as of right now.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I feel like Russell's going to start like half of the games, and then Jameis will come in. But I don't think Jackson Dart will really get to start until his second year.
Liam, why do you think Jameis is going to come in the second half of the games?
So I feel like on the second half of the year, I feel like if the Giants are like, I've heard we have the toughest schedule. So like, if we lose a lot, they did the same thing with Jones and Locke. So if they put in Jameis, we could do the same thing that like Locke did.
Well, that's a good observation. Now the difference with Daniel Jones and Drew Lock is Daniel Jones had injury stipulations in his contract. There were like certain other things that were in play there as well. And you're right, the Giants do have the toughest strength of schedule based on last season's records of their opponents. So that's a good observation on your part too. But I don't know. I would be surprised if the Giants decide to pass the baton from Russ to Jameis based on, unless Russ is not healthy. That's what I think.
I mean, how about we just try to look at the glass half full and hope for the best?
Yeah.
How about the Giants get off to a good start? They're competitive all the way through. Russell Wilson is having a terrific season, which he is committed to doing, by the way.
Yeah.
He is as focused as anybody could possibly be on this property of having a great season. He wants to prove to everybody in the National Football League that he's still got gas in the tank. I'm not going to doubt him until I see that he can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So how about that happens, and then Russell Wilson winds up starting the whole season because the Giants are sticking in the race.
Yeah, and
how about that?
He's got a 1-year contract, so why not play it out, right? And I don't mind. I like your observation, though, too, of like, hey, if we don't see Jackson Dart until next year, it's not a bad thing.
I'm with you on that one, my friend. I'm always for redshirting a rookie quarterback. I'm not shy about saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to my uncle, and he said that Jackson's going to start this year, and I'm like, I don't think he's going to start this year.
He could. He could. We don't know for sure. I mean, I remember Eli Manning's rookie year, right? He started midway through. Kurt Warner was a starter. Game. They were, hovering around 500. The season wasn't over, but it wasn't, Super Bowl or bust at that point, and they just decided he was ready. And they passed the reins. And I think Brian Daboll knows what he's looking for. And Liam, I'm sure you've seen this in, social media clips and interviews. Daboll's very specific about what he wants from his quarterback. So if he sees in Jackson Dart that he's ready to be the quarterback and that he's the best option for the Giants right now at that position, I think he'll go that direction. But it is good that there isn't a sense of urgency or necessity to do that.
I'll just add one final point. Under no circumstances, and I will say this with 150% certainty, Brian Daboll and Joe Shane are not going to rush Jackson Dart into the lineup just to make some group of people, fans or media, happy. They will not do that. That's a lock.
Like I said, my uncle said that, and I said, I was going to say the same thing, but like, I know he's not going to start this year. I feel like they're going to, like, not rush it and take their time.
Man, what's the record?
Tell your uncle that Paul and Madelyn on Big Blue Kickoff Live agree with you, Liam.
Liam, what's their record at the end of the season? You seem to really have a lot of confidence in your thoughts here. So how many games are they going to win?
5-12.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
I mean, listen.
So much for your confidence.
I mean, he's confident. I respect it. It's a solid, increase from last year. We got that going.
Confidence on one hand, doubt on the other hand, predicting only 5 wins. Liam, thank you.
Thank you so much for the call, Liam. Hey, listen, the key to happiness is low expectations. I like where Liam's head's at. Hey, listen, I'm expect 5 wins. Anything more, you're playing with house money at this point. Like, what do you mean? No, right?
Yep, I get you.
We've got some people chiming in on YouTube as well, so I want to involve them in the conversation. Alexander wants to know, what's the top thing you're looking to learn about our team in the preseason? We were just having a conversation about this on the sideline during practice, Paul, and I think there's a lot of questions that we want to learn about special teams.
Well, special teams right now, they got to figure out who the top gunner is with Ford Wheaton out for the season with the torn Achilles. They have to figure out who their punt returner is going to be. We believe that Smith Marset is going to be the kickoff returner. He was terrific last year. But This is a unit that the Giants invested a lot of effort in during the offseason because part of their game plan is they want to dominate on defense and dominate on special teams, taking the pressure off of the offense so that if they know every week they got a chance to win 2/3 of the game, now the offense doesn't have to be put into the pressure cooker to try to pull games out. If they think that the defense and the specials can win the battle of field position, can keep the games close, that's going to make things easier for Wilson. Well, a lot of their special teams hopes, some of them at least, kind of went by the wayside when Ford Wheaton got hurt because he was their best coverage guy on kicks. They need to start figuring out what they're going to do with that unit now in this game against Buffalo. That's going to be probably, in addition to the offensive line, although we don't know who's going to play.
Right.
To me, special teams is going to be a huge point of concentration and emphasis against the Bills because a lot of your special teams guys are not starters anyway.
Right.
So they're going to get in this game.
Yeah.
You know, they're not true 22 starters. They're special team starters.
Well, and
they're
as
going
we
to play.
know, special teams is how you make a 53-man roster by making plays because
Darn
that
straight.
is it's the gumbo, as T-Mac used to call it, or it's something that you need to be able to provide on all elements of the game. And it is the purest form of football, too, special teams.
It is.
That's what Michael Gabriel will call it.
Well,
another question.
Every time Graham Gano's in the game,
Yeah.
unless it's a kickoff, he's points.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's another issue. Graham Gano, as Gobi, Mike Gabriel, the special teams coordinator, said earlier today, he kicked great at the end of last season, and he looks great now. But he's also been hurt each of the last 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, Gano needs to be Gano for the Giants to take that next step forward.
Right. And Paul, you mentioned, too, we don't know who we're going to see in the offensive line, and not just this game, but all three preseason
we just
games.
don't.
Andell wants to know, does Neal look better at the new position? Of course, he's moved over from tackle to guard. Evan Neal was talking about this the other day, saying, the difference in the position, the biggest difference from his perspective is tackle, there's a lot of patience. You wait for the action to come to you, and then you go into it. But guard, you're getting right into it. And he seems to be doing all right with that.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
But, he's going to be facing a different uniform now on Saturday, so that's a big deal. That's certainly a huge point of emphasis in Buffalo is what's Evan Neal going to look like now that he's going to be in a game at guard for the Giants, not for Alabama.
Right.
It's a big difference.
Very different.
That's a big deal. We don't know how many of the other offensive line starters are going to play, though, so that's why, as much as I'd like to say the number one question is the O-line, we don't know who's going to play.
Right.
So we kind of have to push that one to the side. I will say one other thing, though. In terms of what you want to watch for here, if you just want to look at a couple of key positions, depth chart at wide receiver is a big deal.
Yeah.
Depth chart in the secondary is a big deal. Okay. The backup offensive lineman, obviously, because, again, they're going to play, so they're going to have to show something. I think those are kind of two of the other spots, though, that you're going to want to really focus on.
And that second corner position, I mean, there's a lot of questions to be answered about who's going to be where. How much that will we see in the preseason?
I still think Banks is got the job to lose, and I don't think he will lose it. I'm very, very happy with what Tay Banks has done this summer. So, to me, and that's not a knock on Cordell Flott, who has had a terrific offseason, and I'm a big Flott guy. You guys know I wanted him out of LSU. But I don't see him wrestling that job away from Tay Banks. But you're going to want to see, we all know injuries happen. You're going to want to see Flott play well in the game. But yeah, I think
depth is important, and that's one of the biggest changes that we've seen from last season to this season is having not just success at each position, but depth, because injuries do happen, and you want to know that the next man up is not a far drop off.
That's one of the things that you can tell very easily about how your team is progressing. We're sitting here, and outside of the starting offensive line, which has always been a question, we're talking about depth.
Mm-hmm.
That's not usually the case.
No, I mean,
we're usually trying to find some starters.
Yeah, last week Schmelk and I were on the show talking about how very few Giants cut day casualties were picked up on waivers in recent years past, and now we might be seeing more of that because of how much depth there is.
The tight end position.
The tight end position as well.
there's going to be at least one or two good tight ends they're going to set free. They can't keep them all.
You just can't. Yeah, as much as you'd like to, you just can't. Giants fans, with another impactful draft and free agency class in the books, that means it's full steam ahead to the 2025 season. So take your fandom to the next level with a Giants season ticket membership and catch all the action at MetLife Stadium. Connect with exciting home schedule on the horizon. With the membership, you'll also stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days, with exclusive member benefits and access. So to learn more about a New York Giants season ticket membership, visit giants.com/tickets. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's head back to the phone lines. Peter in Charlotte. Peter, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Paul Dottino and Madelyn Burke.
Hey, Madelyn, Paul, great job as always. Training camp has been so exciting. You guys talk about depth. Great that we got 4 tight ends, but we only have like 1 kicker.
Well,
2. McAtamney's still here.
Jude McAtamney's still here.
And by the way, he gets better all the time. He has a cannon of a leg. Coach was asked about him today, Coach Gabriel, the special teams coordinator, and he's like, he continues to improve. Mm-hmm. They like the kid. He does have the international exemption, by the way.
Yep.
Because he was only active for 1 game last year. The Giants could put him, if he clears waivers, he could go to the practice squad as player number 17 and not count against their allotment. And quite honestly, with Gano's injury history, I would definitely want to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I agree. The main question I actually had on the point of injuries, because it's definitely making me a little nervous every training camp, but super excited about Scadaboo. But when I hear that he's got a hamstring, there's different levels of hamstrings, right? So I'm really curious. I know they haven't been saying much, but what are we thinking? Is this like a serious, or are we going to see this kid at all in preseason, or
no?
What?
I think it's precautionary.
As a Sun Devil, I too am very excited about Cam Scadaboo. Forks up, Peter. Let's go. I do think, though, that it is good that it happened this early in training camp as opposed to, in the 3rd preseason game or whatnot. And you want these kind of injuries, which take several weeks, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, depending on the severity, which, again, we are not privy to how severe this is. But I think they are being precautionary with him because the importance is in the regular season. The important ones start in September, and it's more important if you're going to push through it to go through it in that point of the year than, in August against Buffalo when you're just trying to get some reps in if you're not 100%.
We haven't had the chance to talk to him recently, but what I always tell people when they ask about an injury like this, especially during camp, the only question that's relevant is if there was a regular season game this weekend, would you be able to play? Would you be able to fight through it, and would they play you? That's the only question that's relevant. I believe that he's not very seriously hurt and that this is strictly a precautionary thing because, listen, there is no point in him even going out there now, today, taking reps and making that thing worse than it is. Why aggravate it? Because then maybe he would be in danger of missing opening day. So shut him down. Shut him down. It's okay.
And if worst case scenario, if for some reason it's an injury that's going to require some time to heal, they've got depth in that room too. They got Devin Singletary. They got Tyrone Tracy. They got Motor, who's been doing some
Turbo Miller.
Turbo Miller.
I love him. I love Turbo.
And they've got, so they have options to make do while he is recovering, however long that process is. But hopefully it's a short one because, again, as a Sun Devil, let's go.
Yeah, well, we all know that Paul is a huge fantasy football guy, and so, Paul, should I draft Scadaboo on my fantasy football league?
I'm going to answer this with a football philosophy, and that is simply put, the man ran for 21 touchdowns last year with the Sun Devils. He is a touchdown monster, a touchdown gobbler, a touchdown hog, if you will. If I'm the Giants, I'm getting him the ball inside the 5-yard line every chance that I get because he finds a way to crack the goal line. That is a special skill. It's not just easy enough to say, here's the ball, go. No, he has an innate ability to either slither through the hole, to make a juke, or to power his way through somebody. Not everybody can be a goal line monster. He is. So I've been saying all along, at the very least, he's going to be a goal line back for the Giants at the very least.
But I don't think the Giants are looking at any running back as situational.
No, I
they're
don't
looking
think
at them
so
as like,
either.
okay, this. But the one thing I do agree with you on that is Cam is a smaller guy, and so he can find his way through the holes. Plus, this is a guy who, when he was a kid, he used to put on his brother's football pads and run into telephone poles for fun. Like, that's who this man is. Like, he does not fear contact. He loves the game. He's just like, let's go. So.
I mean, I agree that Tracy and Scatterboo, in my opinion, they're 1 and 2, and Singletary's number 3. And I think the first two guys will see the bulk of the carries. I believe that. But I think at the very minimum, Scatterboo's going to be your short yardage guy and your goal line guy. So knowing what I do know about fantasy, although you would never catch me playing it, Scatterboo being a touchdown monster, if I'm going to put him in goal line situations, the way those rules work, I believe you can pick up a ton of points by having Scatterboo cross that goal line.
Yeah.
Love it. I'm excited about the Giants this year. I think they're the sleeper team of the NFC East, and I just can't wait to see it. Thanks for the call.
Peter, thanks so much for calling.
They might be the sleeper team of the NFC, never mind the East.
All right, Dots, I have a question for you. If the Giants win the NFC this season, will you play fantasy football with me next year?
Absolutely not.
Dang it. What if they win a
sorry.
Super Bowl? What if they win a Super Bowl?
No.
What if I told you that all it took for the Giants to win a Super Bowl is for you to promise to play fantasy football?
Okay.
If you would put that out into the ether, then they would win a Super Bowl. Then would you play fantasy football?
You mean if I could get a guaranteed Giants Super Bowl win, and in return I'd have to play fantasy football?
And in return you'd have to be a fantasy football player. Not just play it once, but be a fantasy football player.
In return for a Super Bowl, you got a deal.
All right, dude.
I'll take that one.
All right, we're inching towards there.
I'll take that one.
We're going to
get that's about the only thing that's going to make me sign up for that. Trust me.
I love it. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's head back to the phone lines. Russell in Hackensack is on the line. Russell, welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live. Thanks for calling.
Hey, guys. Love the show.
Thank you.
Paul, we're around the same age, and I don't think anybody's ever mentioned this, but I used to listen to you, Bob Papa, Mike Breen, Michael Caine, a show called One-on-One.
Yep.
It was on WFUV in the early 80s. It was on Friday night and Saturday night, the longest-running sports talk show in New York.
Saturdays and Sundays from 11 p.m. till 2 a.m. in the morning.
Sunday night. Yep.
Yes, sir.
And,
thank you, by the way.
A minute, and I loved every second of it.
I appreciate that very much. Us Fordham guys, we hear a lot of grief from the Syracuse people, right? Because they got a lot of national guys who are in the sportscasting business. But if you look at the New York metropolitan area, it's dominated by the Fordham Rams. I mean, we own this part of the country. The Syracuse guys, they can spout all they want about other places. But when it comes to New York, I mean, come on. And don't leave out guys like Carino and Rucco and Giannone. I mean, we just fill up the microphone when it comes to the New York metro area. We're proud FUVers.
Well, Paul, and people don't realize in that era, and like I said, we're the same age, there was no WFAN or ESPN radio. There was only, I think Art Russ was on for a couple hours during the week. And
sure.
You looked forward to getting your sports information, like myself, from WFTV on those nights.
Jack Curry, of course, was a classmate of Bob and myself. We both came out class of 86.
Anyway, quick question on this year's team. I heard Hudson got hurt today and went off the field, and obviously AT's still not practicing. I'm getting a little concerned about that position. Have you heard anything?
Well, Hudson got nicked up early in practice, and Marcus Bowe, the fifth-round pick out of Purdue, got a ton of extra reps in the tackle spot. He did okay. I'll be honest with you. He did okay. It's quite a jump for him to come out of the Boilermakers locker room and suddenly be like, wait a minute. I'm running first-team reps with the New York Giants? That's a pretty big deal. I don't know right now. They don't give out injury information. And this is a good time to mention this. The NFL requires an injury report during the course of the season, and that's basically because of the fact that they're also part of the gambling business, and they have to have injury reports.
Well, before that, it's just for sake of fairness and competition.
Yeah, but they became regulated because of the gambling business. There are no NFL regulations set by the league for team injury reports during the preseason or during training camp. There are none. You don't have to say a word about injuries. And consequently, 99% of the coaches will not. Mm-hmm. So that's why I hate to say this to you, but we don't have any definitive information about anybody who is hurt. It is at the team's discretion whatever they want to say or don't say. I'm telling you, I don't think Scadaboo is very serious. I believe that Andrew Thomas is on track for opening day. I don't know what's going on with Hudson right now other than he missed the last half of practice. And I'm being as honest with you and as transparent as I possibly can be because that's all there is.
All right. We'll see. I'm looking forward to the season. I do think they've upgraded the talent level. Last year at the end, it was, as a Giant fan, long-time Giant fan, it was a little embarrassing. But I do feel good going into the season.
Whoa, time out. You said you were listening to One-on-One in the 80s, which means you've seen all the Giants' 5 Super Bowl trips and 4 Lombardi trophies. How is that embarrassing?
It's only embarrassing in its small half year, end of the year with everything going on. I think maybe it was a little embarrassing because the Eagles won. I was so upset I had to hide under my bed.
Okay. I suppose I can understand you being tweaked a little bit, but, what if you were rooting for the other resident of MetLife Stadium? How would you feel then?
Good point, Paul.
I'm just saying.
Pew, pew. Shots fired. They'll be in our building next week. All right. Thanks so much for the call, Russell. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks. Great. Thanks. Bye.
Sure.
201-939-4513 is the phone number. Thanks so much, Russell, for calling. Giants fans, the Giants' official connected TV streaming app, Giants TV, brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and on the Giants mobile app. As we go back to the YouTube comments, Paul, this one I think is a perfect question for you because I think you might know this. StuBaby2000 asks, I have been a fan for a long, long time, but I cannot tell who says, you know what I saw? New York Giant pride on the BBK Open. Can anyone help me in this? Paul Dottino, whose voice is that?
I will answer by giving Madelyn a hint because you're going to guess.
Okay.
The gentleman was here with a wide brim hat on and addressed the players after practice just the other day.
Oh, Tom Coughlin.
Bingo.
Ta-da.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Tom Coughlin.
That's the guy.
Yeah, it is the Tom Coughlin, TC.
New York Giant pride. That's what he says.
You hear his voice.
Right, Johnny Mac?
There, but you also, it's such a different octave. Like, when somebody's fired up, that's not the normal Tom Coughlin soundbite you're used to hearing. So I could see how some fans might be like, oh, who's that one?
One of my great memories of Tom Coughlin in the post-game locker room, and I'm privileged enough that I usually get in very early into the post-game locker room because I have to do locker room interviews for our TV post-game show. Tom, after the Giants' 10th win of the season in Philadelphia several years ago, it's over a decade ago, the Giants did not make the playoffs that year. They won 10 games and lost the tie-breaking situation and did not make the playoffs. Tom's in that locker room after the game, and he's telling those guys, you don't hang your heads one bit. I know we're not going to the playoffs, but you just won 10 games. 10 games in the National Football League. There is a lot to be proud of. Don't you hang your heads. Do you know how hard it is in this league to win 10 games in a season? It's one of my great Tom Coughlin moments. Yeah. I got chills just listening to the man because, Tom commands respect with his presence. I tell people all the time, guys like Parcells and Tom Coughlin, it's like Sinatra walked into the room.
Oh,
that's the kind of presence that they command just by their very being in the building and being in the room. And you're going to listen to every single word that those guys say. And if that doesn't register with you, then there's something wrong.
I will say, Tom Coughlin here a couple days during training camp this year. He and Brian Dable have a great relationship. They've got a good, line of communication open. I did see on social media a lot of Giants fans making a big to-do about Coughlin being in the building, saying, oh my gosh, all is well, the Coughlin curse is over. But this is not the first time Coughlin has come to
He's here a lot.
He's here a lot, especially under head coach Brian Daboll.
Every year, he's here at least a few times.
Yeah.
And please, let's not forget, his son-in-law is Chris Snee, who was one of the Giants scouts.
Yep. And the J Foundation and the Giants are still very much simpatico.
Do charitable events with them every single season.
All the
I
time.
know I'm a part of it. So
I was so curious because I was like, well, I mean, I get, obviously breakups are hard in that moment when, Coughlin left the organization. But it's not like he's been, estranged for all this time. And he's still pretty omnipresent.
The reason that I don't put any stock at all in the Coughlin curse, which of course I think is ridiculous anyway, but the team made the playoffs in 16 and made the playoffs again in 22.
And won a game in 22.
On the road.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? As an underdog.
Yeah.
So, usually when there's a, quote, curse, you're not making any postseason. I mean, you're like total drought mode for like years and years and years and years. No, that's not been the case here. I know it hasn't been pretty over the last decade. I get that, folks. But there have been some spikes, kind of like that earthquake meter where you see the spikes, right?
Yeah.
There have been a couple of spikes during that time period now. So it's not a drought situation.
Mm-mm.
So I don't get it. I don't get what curse. No curse.
Speaking of earthquakes, stay safe out there in New Jersey. As the resident California girl in the show right now, I will say that if ever it gets to be a severe earthquake, which these are just little tremors, safest place to be indoors is in a doorway. So if you find yourself in a real earthquake, head to a doorway. It's the most reinforced part of
John,
the
we got a
house.
couple minutes here, right?
I'm over here.
Okay.
I'm over here offering my California earthquake wisdom to the fine folks of New Jersey who are still flabbergasted when this happens.
Public service.
Yes.
We're going to put football aside for 1 second on this show, which is very hard for me to do, but I think this is important. So we've had a 3 and a 2.7 in Bergen County over the last week or so.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the worst you have felt in your time in California? Because she long-time California person here.
So when I was a kid, let me look up the exact wattage of it, but in 1994, there was a Northridge earthquake in Southern California. I'm from Los Angeles, and it was a magnitude 6.7.
That's nasty, right?
It was bad. We lost power. We lost water for a period of time. Like our kitchen, all of the dishes came out of the shelves and shattered on the ground, and it shook for quite a while. Yeah, there was a lot of damage done. I mean, this is, I'll show Paul some pictures of it and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was in January of 1994, the Northridge earthquake. That's the roughest one I've been a part of. I was a kid, but I do remember it quite vividly. And then, you get a couple 4s here and there where you're like, oh, we're shaking, we're good. And maybe a lawn chair knocks over.
So 4s don't bother you?
Well, I mean, again, once you do it 6.7, you're like, oh, that's the whole thing, But yeah, 3s is a good little, did I feel that? Did somebody slam a door or was that an earthquake?
So 3s are like a mosquito bite?
A little bit, yeah. But as it gets, but again, when the fault, so earthquakes happen when there's pressure in a fault line and there's, the movement of the fault line and it just creates that.
I thought that was Dexter Lawrence after a sack.
That too. So sometimes, there's just little bits here and there, and sometimes there's little bits that turn into bigger bits. So anyways, I'm just imparting some California earthquake wisdom on all of you.
Did you feel these last 2 at all?
No, I was in the city.
You did not?
I did not feel them.
And some people in the city did.
That's true. But I think also, if you're in motion, for example, if I'm, riding a city bike and I just thought, ooh, I hit a speed bump or something like that. I don't know. Or, but if you're standing still or, maybe in a place that you feel it more, I don't know. I just didn't happen to feel it. Last summer, though, we had 2 in one day that I felt.
Wow.
It is weird to me, though, because I'm like, I thought I left these back home, but here we go.
Are you more sensitive to them now because you've been through them for so many years?
No, I don't think they're like concussions. I think that they,
oh, jeez.
Like
I wasn't going there.
Like I've had concussions. The more you have, the more sensitive you are to get more. But no, I think earthquakes are just, you feel them or you don't.
All right, that is the public service portion of our program. I just felt compelled, since I figured you had experience, we would have that conversation.
Thank you for letting me impart my California wisdom.
See, we are a full-service program here on Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Bruh. SoCal, you love
John,
it.
I hope you learned something. Johnny Mac says, yes, he learned something. I hope you did too out there.
There we go. Glad to be of service. That's a wrap for today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Thanks for being with us here in the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. For Paul Dottino, I'm Madelyn Burke. See you next time.